Good afternoon, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to our show today. We hope that you guys enjoyed today's edition of HR from Happy Valley with Team Watermelon. My name is Nathaniel Martin, and I am a junior from the professional golf management major.
I'm Nicole Dreibelbis, and I'm in hospitality management.
And I'm Shangni Li, and I'm hospitality student that will graduate in next month.
I am Shizhe. I'm a senior at hospitality management.
Hi everyone, I'm Sofie. I'm a junior and I'm also studying hospitality management. Our podcast series is about situations in the workplace that are going on in the world right now that relate to human resource management. And our first segment of our show is called Here's the News, and it's where we are going to be talking about things that are important, funny, cool, and things to look out for in the hospitality industry today.
For the first segment here today, we're going to be talking about the news, and here's the news. We're going to be reporting from several different desks. My name is Nathaniel Martin, and I'm going to be starting from the Here's Something Cool desk. So an article that I found relevant to the HR world, something cool in the workplace, is how humor is used in the workplace by bosses. Obviously, it's something we don't often see. You can recall the show The Office, and that's probably as much humor as you've ever seen a boss use, but it's not something that we're very familiar with. However, the statistics show that leaders with any sense of humor are seen as more motivating and admired than those who choose to not joke around. Obviously, as we've touched on, you need to make sure that your jokes are suitable for work. You don't want to offend any of your colleagues and have a negative impact on the workplace, but you want to keep it lighthearted and fun. It can create a signature story for your company if there's humor associated with it, and it can be just a better workplace environment. A lot of people would consider, is 2021 really the right time? 2020, 2021, this pandemic year has been tough for a lot of people. Is it the right time to use humor in the workplace? But in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, I think this is the best time to use it. Obviously, like I said, you got to be mindful of when you're using it, but I think that the fact that we're even looking at this as an option and an avenue for improving the workplace is cool to me, because humor is not really a tool that I think enough bosses and leaders employ, because they're too concerned being, putting up a serious front and don't really allow themselves to open up and be close with their employees. I think managers could really learn from this article because, as I said, leaders and managers who are more humorous are more relatable and do a better job to motivate their employees. So I hope you guys considered that to be something pretty cool in the world of HR. Now I'm going to toss it off to Sofie.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Once again, I'm Sofie, and the desk I'm reporting from is Here's Something Important. And I like to talk about how the gender pay gap is increasing again. So we have done so much in the world to decrease the pay gap between men and women, but ever since COVID started, we have seen that the pay gap is increasing again. So ever since COVID started, people have been working from home more often, and people have started noticing that the ones who are working in the office still and who are able to work in the office are being paid more than the people working from home. And the ones working from home are mostly mothers because the children are also doing school from home, and someone who is typically the mother needs to stay home with them. And the men who are working in the offices are being valued more and being paid more than the women working from home, who are typically putting in more hours and getting more work done. We've seen a lot of evidence through COVID-19 and a lot of surveys that are being done that people who are working from home are putting in more hours and doing overtime. And that's pretty much all women right now. And so that's causing the gender pay gap to start to increase again. And a statistic that was found is that 144,000 jobs that were lost in America in December during COVID, most of them were lost by women, and primarily women of color. It's something important that I think should be talked about right now. And after hearing about all of this, it's something that needs to be fixed, and the hours need to be more flexible, and there needs to be more mental health support, especially with going through a pandemic right now. And the statistics need to be looked at, and just because someone is working at home doesn't necessarily mean that they should be being paid less. And so it's something I think is very important, and something that has been worked on for so many years to decrease this pay gap between genders. And so, yeah, I think this was something important, and I hope you guys think that too. So here's Nikki with something that she'd like to talk about.
Thank you, Sophie. I think the gender pay gap is a very important topic to talk about. So again, my name is Nikki, and today I will be reporting from Here's Something to Think About desk. So out of all these negative effects of COVID-19, here are some positive impacts employers are creating for their employees. The article I'm going to be talking about is titled Remote Working Will Transform Employer Benefit Offerings. So I think that this is really interesting because the transition to remote working has been challenging for so many people, but employers are finding ways to help their employees shift to this virtual work. The article talked about 4 main benefits that employers are providing for their employees, like they're making work schedules more flexible because people have children at home now. Another benefit that was great is they are allowing employees paid time off to roll over until after the pandemic is over, which is very helpful for employees because many people didn't take vacation during COVID with all the travel restrictions. Employers are also adding more health coverage, which is great because it's hard for people to see a doctor right now, and that's really helpful for them. And another one is employers are offering learning and development programs to help their employees progress in their careers and meet these new demands that have been created by COVID-19. So they're even giving employees a chance to move up in the company. These are completely focused on the well-being and happiness of employees. And the business and employers have acknowledged that there are hardships that come with COVID-19, and they're really working hard to make sure their employees are happy and taken care of, even when they're working remotely and don't actually see them in the office. This is a great way to keep your employees motivated in their current jobs, and it's also a great way to attract new employees because even if they can't be in the office, they still feel cared about and that they are important even when they're working from home. So some of these benefits are great to think about in the workplace because employee satisfaction and the well-being is important even when employees are working from home. So now I'll be turning it over to Shangni to report from her desk.
Thank you, Nikki. And here is Shangni. I will talk about here is something everyone should care about. And my topic is the corporate board diversity. I think it's every sensible and stable-minded person should care about in contemporary working setting. And the topic revolves around inclusion and diversity within workplace. The article I chose is from Bella, the corporate board diversity, moving beyond lip service. I think the most important thing about the article is it points out although there are some recent advances towards inclusivity, gaps still exist in the working environment. A statistical finding show that in most corporate boards, women and historical disenfranchised people of color, Latino, still occupy less than 20%. One way of ensuring diversity and inclusion is making it a mandated and obligatory requirement for companies through legalizations, as is already taking place in states like California, Washington, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. And also, I think the effective recruitment engagement is another strategy that can be adopted by corporate, and I think the manager should care about. And the notable aspect of the article are the statistical breakdown and the visual presentation of the composition of place of work. And it also lists the various strategies and policy change that management and the government can be adopted to make it an achievable reality. And finally, in science, in a world that's increasingly become global, the composition of our society is marked by a visible sense of diversity in the population demographics. And now the world's economic is revolving from effects of epidemic. And Sophie and Nikki all mentioned about the work behavior during the pandemic. And next, Shizhe will talk more about some work behavior change after the pandemic.
Hi, this is Shizhe. I'm reporting from Here's Something to Watch Out For. According to the article, How has the COVID-19 pandemic shaped the future of work from SHRM? The impact of COVID-19 pandemic has changed employment forever. Uncertainty has become the norm. The world needs a lot of rebuilds. However, one big concern for the HR department will be workplace safety when employees get back to work. People are working remotely right now, or getting paid time off. Those who lost their jobs also got unemployment benefits. The pandemic has also highlighted the importance of technology in the workplace. A big question during the COVID-19 pandemic is how do we utilize technologies to improve the lives of workers rather than just to automate repetitive works. And gig workers are lacking of safety and not protected by employment benefits. So here's something to watch out for. We're rebuilding the economy. Employers have to watch out for their employees' health and safety. They have to watch out for legal aspects of employee benefits, such as wage and hour laws, protections from discrimination, and public safety requirements. It's interesting that me and Nicole also mentioned employee benefits during the pandemic. I think it's an important component to motivate the employees and make it possible for economic review. Right, Nikki?
Yeah, so COVID has affected so many people. And like Sophie said, it's causing many women to have to stay home with their children now.
Another thing that I found really interesting was about your article, Nathaniel, and how you talked about bringing back like joking and a happier overall environment in the workplace. And while a lot of people are still working from home, the people that are working in their at their business, I think it's a really important thing to have a happy environment. And I don't know if joking would be a good thing, but I think it's important to liven it up a little bit in the workplace, especially with all the bad things that are going on right now with the pandemic.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, that we've touched on a lot of the bad things that are going on with the pandemic. Everybody's article, including Shangni Li's article, touched on a lot of the bad things that are going on with the pandemic. A lot of things have been brought to light. Including inclusion and diversity. But I think that a good way to kind of bring everybody together and back together slowly with these social settings, no matter how it may play out, we just need to make things more lighthearted, I think, in my opinion. And I think that, the article that I looked at was very helpful in that case. I don't know if you have any other comments on that, but I think that was helpful to look at.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. I do, I think it's an important thing to keep a lighthearted environment, but also, obviously continue on working hard and not straying from the task at hand. But I think everyone needs a little bit of lightheartedness in the time right now. And going back to the article I was talking about with mental health, I think making work a little more lighthearted and all of that will kind of help with people's mental health right now. But yeah, I think we all touched on some really important topics in this segment.
Yeah, I think especially the affecting mental health and having more fun at work definitely can help your mental health, especially. So each of these different topics are important in the workplace because they each focus on the different aspects within the work environment, but they all really relate to employee satisfaction and happiness within the workplace. Now we are going to transition into some hot topics and discuss why we should and should not continue with telework in the future.
How's it going, everybody? I hope that you enjoyed last segment from Here's the News, discussing some of the relevant articles and topics in the HR world today from some really good sources that we looked at throughout the semester. Now we're going to look at some hot topics, and I'm going to be leading the discussion on how telework has been utilized this year more than ever. Really, some of the implications we're going to look at with that, and whether that's been a positive or negative thing. It could be up for debate. So we're going to kind of look at both sides of that. So with us now being over a year into the global pandemic, that obviously forced all of us to live at least some portion of our lives remotely. Even if you think you haven't, had a lot of changes, you could take this class, for example, where we're making this podcast with people all over the country and all over the world. Whereas opposed to normally we would be meeting in person to have this conversation. It's obviously changed a lot of things for us, but as we've seen COVID cases dropping and vaccines being distributed, a lot of states have loosen some of the restrictions. So we want to look at the question of what is the future of telework in the world today. So with millions of Americans working remotely from home at this time, the question really is that harmful, or could it be beneficial in some ways? There's definitely more than one way to look at it. And as an article in the Harvard Business Review by Marette Weddell-Wettelsberg, she puts it, every crisis has three phases: the emergency, a regression, and finally a recovery. And the question that I'd like to pose to both sides today, is that where does telework really fit into the recovery portion of that three phases of the crisis?